Hi dear friends, click on the like button and the subscribe button, hit the bell icon and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. So here we are driving the Mercedes S-Class, and first thing, let me change the mode of the cluster. So this is the Sport, this is the Classic, and most of you requested me to go into Progressive. So here we are, it also gets a G-force meter. And we get into drive mode. So we are in drive, and let me turn this into dynamic mode. So it's in Sport. So we get the engine into Sport, the suspension into Sport, the steering into Sport, as well as the ESP into Sport. And we are all set to go. Let me even turn off the air conditioning. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving it, and here we are. And it's upshifting at around 4,500 RPM. This car has good amount of thrust without any doubt, and in no time it does 100 kilometers per hour. So the claimed 0 to 100 kilometer per hour time is 6 seconds, which is more than a second faster than the old V6 motor. So this one uses an inline 6-cylinder engine. Now what it results in, that there's a lot of space saving inside, and they are doing a lot of technology to make it comply with BS6 emission norms. So this is the first car in India which complies with BS6 emission norms, and to do that Mercedes-Benz had to really engineer a lot, because this can run on BS4 fuel while giving the emissions of BS6. That's fantastic, but it's very complex, and the reason for them to use an inline 6 and not a V6 is that they save a lot of space inside the hood, and thereby they have to put a lot of systems. For starters, when you open the lid to fill fuel, there's something called AdBlue, which is a 25-liter tank. You don't have to fill it, but every service they are going to top it up, and basically that mixes up with the emissions to ensure that this one complies with BS6 emission norms. And as I give it the beans, it just pulls so smoothly. The refinement of this motor is fantastic. It produces 286 horsepower, which is 28 more than the older car, and 600 newton meters of torque from as low as 1200 rpm. So the refinement of this engine is just fantastic. I mean, you can barely hear the car at idle, and then when you get going also, there is no noise at all. There's no turbo lag, so to speak, because there's so good amount of low end thrust. You get on the throttle and bang, it just goes. So the S-Class is known for its ride quality, and this one is no different. Obviously in India you don't get magic body control. Basically what magic body control is, it uses radar sensors to identify what is the road surface ahead, and it does it around 500 times per second, and using that data it's able to recalibrate the suspension. So if you go over a speed breaker at 120 kilometers per hour, you will not feel a single thing inside the car. Unfortunately, that system cannot be offered in India because the radar frequency which is used for magic body control is not permitted in the Indian market. Then there are a range of active driving assistance systems. So basically there are 4 I would like to talk about right now. So there's something called as blind spot monitoring. Basically now if I'm coming close to this car, you can see on the mirror, it will tell me if someone is in my blind spot. So there you see a triangle blinks red to tell me that something is in my blind spot. Then there is something called active distronic system. Basically it's something like active cruise control system. What it does is that you put the car on cruise and you can just keep going, and if something comes in the way, the car will automatically apply brakes and lower the speed so you don't get into a collision, and as soon as that thing gets out of the way, it will again speed up to your set cruise control speed. That system also applies brake to the level where the car comes to a halt completely, and in case there is someone who stopped ahead, and then it will again pick up the speed which you were driving at earlier. So that is just fantastic, and that system works up till 210 kilometers per hour. Wow, that's not all. There's another system which is active braking. If anything comes in the way, it will actively brake to stop the car, and that works till 130 kilometers per hour. Then there is a very interesting system called steering assist. What it does is it ensures that you stay in your lane. So when you kind of drift from one lane to another, the steering will automatically pull you back into your lane. Now what it needs is obviously lane markings, but it can work without lane markings up till a speed of 130 kilometers per hour, and with lane markings. And what it does is also marks a car ahead to follow that car. It can go up till 210 kilometers per hour. Wow. Now obviously this is an S-Class, so it has an airmatic suspension system, and which can be adjusted, so you can increase or decrease the ride height. So there's a button, when you press that button, the ride height increases by 30 mm. Meanwhile when you get into sport mode, which it is in now, it will reduce the ride height by 20 mm, and once you get into comfort mode, which is the default mode, it will reduce the ride height by 10 mm as soon as you hit 120 kilometers per hour. And if you go another 40 kilometers per hour, that if you go to 160 kilometers per hour, it will further reduce reduce the ride height by another 10 mm, and the reason it does it is to improve the aerodynamics of the car and to ensure that this vehicle remains glued to the road, and that also has a positive effect on the handling of this vehicle. The handling of this S-Class is absolutely phenomenal. Like, phenomenal isn't the word. It handles so well. I have no words to tell you. Like, obviously it's nowhere like the 7 Series. The 7 Series handles better, but the steering weighs up so brilliantly well. It has so much feel and feedback. Like, I can really push this car around corners, and I mean, obviously it will understand. You can hear the tires screech, but give it the beans and it just goes. Wow. I mean, the steering weighs up so brilliantly well. I am absolutely in shock. The steering just weighs up so well. It becomes so hard as you go higher up in speeds, and obviously the driving modes let you alter the steering, the gearbox, the suspension, as well as the engine. So right now I'm in sport mode, and in sport mode it just goes. Like, everything is turned up to the highest level. Obviously in comfort it is reduced because it has an airmatic suspension, which makes it comfortable in comfort mode. But in sport mode, like, I really appreciate the steering feel on this car. And because of the driving assistance system, like, if you're trying to go on a white line, the car actually pulls you back. It does it on its own, and it does it so well that I am in total love with this car. I never expected the steering to offer so much feel and feedback, which it does in this particular vehicle, because the steering is like light at lower speed. So right now let me come to say a halt, and the steering is quite light. Makes it easy to maneuver this car, although parking is still a pain in the ass because it's a very long car. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving it till 2,500 RPM, and there's a lot of wheel spin. You can hear that wheel spin, right? It's just wheel spinning in glory. And 100 kilometers per hour in absolutely no time. It accelerates so fast. Here we are already doing 150 kilometers per hour. That's the kind of acceleration. Brisk, certainly. And now I'm coming to this circle where I'm planning to give it the complete beans, and there's a speed breaker, and I'm hard on the brakes, some tire noise, but it stops right in its track. The steering weighs up brilliantly well at high speeds. It is quite heavy, and it maintains its line quite well. Look at the line, the way it's maintaining it. And let me just get heavier on the throttle, and as I get heavier on the throttle, there is some sort of tire noise. This runs on 18 inches, by the way. Phenomenal. What a lovely machine. I absolutely love it. Now let's get back to our normal road driving on the highway. Ride quality is phenomenal. It kind of floats on the road, it kind of wafts around, and you just feel a sensation that, you know, you're riding on a cushion of air. That's how good the ride quality is. So let me change the mode on the display to the sport one. Let me go into vehicle settings and put this meter. It will tell me exactly how much power and torque is being used. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving it to 2,500 RPM, and here we go. Phenomenal. The acceleration is just mind-numbing, and it pulls so strongly. This is a diesel motor which doesn't feel like a diesel motor at all. And it is in no time doing speeds which are just phenomenal for a car with this kind of space inside. And it feels so refined. And obviously the diesel is the torchbearer of the segment, because everybody wants to buy a diesel limousine. However, they also have a petrol which they call the S450. It is also powered by 3-liter V6 motor. This one is an inline 6, by the way. That is a V6, and that one produces 367 horsepower but 500 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour comes faster in that one. So it does 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 5.1 seconds. Meanwhile, both the cars will max out at 250 kilometers per hour. Obviously, this is restricted top speed. This is much more capable, and I am so tempted to give it the beans, considering how much more power reserve is there. You can see it is hardly using any power or torque right now. Obviously I'm coasting, but these electronics and radar systems are very advanced, makes the S-Class extremely safe, and even at high speeds it is so phenomenally stable. You just don't feel the speed at all. That's the level of insulation inside the cabin. That's the level of refinement of this motor. Now this one has ditched the torque converter gearbox for a multi-clutch gearbox, and this is a 9-speed unit. The gearbox is super slick. It shifts gears without you even knowing about them, and you can obviously manually take control of things using the steering mounted paddles. So here we are, and even at 4000 rpm you can't hear a thing. And here, as I pull the motor gear with the full beans, it just pulls, and there is no sense of urgency from the motor in terms of being vocal, but in terms of gathering pace, it just goes. And as I step on the brakes, I realize it cuts down the speed without you feeling anything inside the cabin. And obviously I am on the driver's seat, and the S-Class isn't a driver's car. So if I compare it to the BMW 7 Series, honestly the 7 Series is much more fun to drive, but the S-Class has more comfort. The ride quality is just phenomenal. And obviously if you are greedy like me, then there is the Maybach, and they have two variants for that, the S560 and the S650. Both are petrol engines, but honestly most people are going to buy the S350 only. And for rupees 1.58 crores on-road Mumbai, this car offers a lot of value for your money. So if you are looking for a limousine for being chauffeured around, or even taking to the wheel sometimes, there is nothing which even comes close to the S-Class at this price point. Let me change the display to the classic one. Here we go. Now I can also see below the tachometer how much Newton meters I'm using right now. So I get on the gas and it says 300 Newton meters. There's a G-force meter even in classic mode. I don't know why a G-force meter is there. This ain't an AMG, but still Mercedes would give that to you. I guess the chauffeur would really enjoy seeing how much G-force he is getting through the corners, because it kind of gets boring driving this car. It is so good. The systems take care of all the safety. You don't have to brake, you don't have to worry about maintaining a speed. You just put it in the system, it will do it on its own. You're just driving around, controlling the steering, which also it takes over when it realizes that you're getting out of your lane. There is attention assist, which will realize if you are feeling sleepy and give you a coffee symbol on the cluster to tell you need to have a cup of coffee. I was driving a little bit tired. It showed me a symbol of beans, which means that I should have some beans. So to sum it up, is the Mercedes S-Class the best car in the world? And I can say it without my heartbeat increasing even by 1 bit, doing whatever speeds I want, because it just gathers pace. It isolates you completely from the environment. And when you arrive in an S-Class, you arrive in complete style. So when you talk about comfort, you talk about luxury, you talk about features, you talk about technology, you talk about even performance and fuel efficiency, which I have not spoken about in this review, and I'm sure many of you are going to type out kitna deti hai. This one will give you aram se 10 to 12 kilometers per liter. So it's a complete package for a person who wants a car which does everything so well. Just don't expect it to go around corners with a lot of enthusiasm. And if you want that, there will be an AMG version, which also I will review soon. So that's it, guys. This is my review of the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, and if you liked it, you know what you have to do. Give it the thumbs up, that's the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next video real soon. Bye bye.